Welcome back, Shalloners. This is Evil Week. Now, we've been talking about 7 sins and 7 ways to improve our lives by getting good at being a little bad. And where else is wickedness rewarded than corporate America? Today, we're going to talk about how to get cutthroat at work, how to level up, how to manipulate your boss into being on your side, all under the name of pride. Because you should be proud with what you do for a living. You should be proud of your accomplishments. And the way to manifest that pride is to be a little bit, or a lot of it, Machiavellian. I didn't get to where I am in New York City when I moved here knowing one person by being sweet. I was sweet on the surface. I got to where I did by being strategic. Like I say, war is strategy. But first, just want to remind you guys, if you want to talk to me about your own evil empire or a love question, a family question, anything, find me on my website, shallonlester.com, and be sure to shop my new merch, link below here. And you can also shop right from my website and follow me on Instagram at ShallonXO, where I let you guys weigh in on the next video topic. And of course, the podcast, Girl on Top, out every Wednesday. So work. The glass ceiling is very real for women. If you've never heard that term, it means like there's this invisible cap to how far women can advance in her particular career. And when I was young, when I was in college, I didn't believe this. I just didn't believe it. I'm like, these are women who are just not good at their job, whatever, like, just shut the fuck up about it. Oh, it's real. And it's real the way racism is real. Like, your company is not going to send out a memo being like, hey, we don't like Jews and women's, FYI. Like, it's going to be so silent and so ingrained in the day-to-day operating that it's incredibly hard to combat. It's so subtle, so many microaggressions that you're going to be like, like, yes, you can do things like go to HR. And you should, if things are egregious, for sure. But that can tend to put a target on your back. And realistically, your time at that company is going to be limited, you know? And it should be. If you are at a company where you have to go to HR a lot, this is not the place for you. And it has nothing to do with like you not being able to hack it. It's like life is short. What are we spending our time doing? Before I left Star Magazine, like, I left in January and my YouTube channel took off in March. Like, I went from making like $200 a month on this channel, like whatever, to making $5,000 to $7,000. Like, just at that time, like it just skyrocketed. So like that showed me that leaving that job was the right decision. But when I was there, I felt trapped. I didn't know what to do. It was such a toxic environment. It was such a patriarchy. Ask Ronan Farrow. Like, it was really bad. And I have always approached bosses as easy targets of manipulation, you know? Because make no mistake, they're manipulating your ass. If you're loyal to your company to the point that you're not taking your vacation days, you're coming to work when you have the flu, you're missing your kid's basketball game, you're missing dates, your friendships are suffering, you're a fucking fool. You're a damn fool. Unless you have equity in this business, and unless your name is on the door, you're an idiot. And look, I was that idiot for my entire career. I gave everything to my jobs. I said before, in New York City, your job is your identity. And like that, in no other city in the world is it like that than it is here. So like we normalize that grind culture, you know, like I've been working this many hours. I work this many hours. I was up this, I was up that early. Like, it's competitive and you have pride in it. But what does it get you? Nothing. You get fucked in the end, because if you think your company has loyalty to you, you're a fool. They will throw you away. I watched it happen again and again and again. And this moment of realization came. I had actually already left, thank God. But this guy who worked with us, he was just this beacon of light. He was just the most wonderful person. And he died. And he was like 29. He had a seizure and he passed away. And it just was like, like 5 people turned in their resignation. They're like, I can't live like this. I can't come into this dark, dank office full of negativity and bad energy and evil. I can't be in here. And that, like, I again, like I said, I was already out of there, but everything shifted so dramatically in my thinking. And that's when I was like, I will never go back to an office. Never. I am going to do my own job for the rest of my life. This is my own evil empire. And if I do go back to an office, whatever, never say never. I am going to make sure that I am approaching this from a standpoint of what are you going to do for me? What can I take out of here? I'm going to pick your bones dry at this job. I'm going to do my work. I'm going to produce some awesome stuff like I always have, but me first. I'm not doing other people's work. So it's very important that you get your boss on your side, right? How do you do this? The way you manipulate anyone is to find their weakness, identify their shadow self, and press. Okay? What is a shadow self? A shadow self, I talk about this a lot. It's the side of ourselves that society doesn't normally see, and if they do, they don't validate it. It's kind of our dismissive side. Like, whenever I've dated, like, athletes, I have played up their artistic shadow self, and they're like, oh, yes, I do paint. I was like, I know. I could tell. I could just tell you had, like, a creative soul. Tell you a big bank account, a big dick, but, like, whatever. Like you see that and you hone in on it. I've talked before, my shadow self is that I'm very sweet. And no, I don't lead with that. This is evil week, but like that, if you're close to me in my life, you see that, but people on the outside don't. So if someone comes along and they're like, you've got a good heart. I'm like, how do you know that? What? And I feel very seen. And it can take a minute to really hone in on someone's shadow self. And time is not always on your side when you come to a job or you realize like, hey, people are jockeying for promotions and people are on the chopping block. Like, you got to make a decision fast. So we'll simplify it. A man's weakness. A boss, how do I phrase this? You have to position yourself as someone your boss wants to protect or someone he wants to fuck. This is the world. This is the world. Because that's how men define women. The good girl or the bad girl, right? And if she's the good girl, okay, he's going to want to like mentor her and like help her grow. And you approach that side through flattery, right? You are just so good at this. I would love to take you to coffee and just pick your brain about how you got to this position. Like, this is so inspiring. You remind me so much of my grandpa, and he fought on the beach at Normandy at D-Day. He's gonna geek. He's gonna geek about it. That works really well for older guys. Actually, that works for a lot of them because, again, you have to give someone the thing that no one else is giving them, right? So that can work really well for a younger boss who maybe is a manager at Panera. He's not doing shit. And it's like, oh, wow, how did you get here? I'm so impressed. And he's like, well, I know. I mean, I'll just tell you how I got here. You had a pastry for 99 cents. If you have an older boss working at a corporation, you might want to go the other route. You might want to go the flirty route. I mean, it's just like, you are so dynamic. Do you know how people like react when you give those speeches in the meetings every day? Like, they are like, oh my gosh, like, are we listening to him? He's like John F. Kennedy. Again, it's all based in flattery. Men are ruled by their egos. And when we know that, they are so simple. They're the simplest creature. We act like men are complicated. They're not. They're shitty and they lie. But liars aren't always complex. Children are liars. And if you look at why children lie, it's like they want something or they want to get out of being in trouble. It's basically just those two things. So men grow up and it's like the same shit. They're lying to you about why they didn't text you back because they don't want to be in trouble. And they're lying to you about how serious they are in terms of dating you because they want to get sex. It's the same thing. So men are very easy to manipulate if you know how. And it takes a suppression, ironically, of your pride. I don't like to bullshit people. Like, I don't like to suck up. I'm not a suck up. I hate it. But I do it because war is strategy. Right? And the ends justifies the means. We talked about being Machiavellian. Machiavelli wrote The Prince. That was his thesis statement. I mean, he said a lot of other stuff. A lot of it was really boring. And he said it's better to be feared than loved, which I agree. Sort of. We'll talk about that when we cover wrath. Oh. So yes, you're going to have to dial down your pride a little bit, and you're going to have to shuck and jive and flirt and do what you have to do to get where you need to be, because the men are doing that. They're not flirting, but they're, dang, that's so fun. Let's go play golf, you old son of a bitch. Learn to play golf, girl. I don't. I'm a Democrat. Only Republicans golf, but you need to do the things. So if you are flirting with him, now listen, this is a slippery slope because I get a lot of questions from you guys. I'm dating my boss. I'm dating my boss. Okay, you're also a fool. That is literally the worst idea, the worst. Don't date anyone at work. You are there for the bag. You are there for your goals, for your money. I'm a hoe and a half. I've never dated a coworker. I don't even flirt. I purposely go to work looking kind of like whatever-ish, like very plain, because like I don't even need to invite this attention. I need to be focused on my dreams 10 hours a day. That's what I'm doing, okay? I can go home, be a tramp if I want to. I've earned it. I'm gonna kick off those Uggs and put on some stilettos. But when you flirt with the boss, it has to be subtle. It has to just be hope. It cannot ever be follow through. And he can't necessarily like think realistically that it's going to happen. There just has to be the idea. And again, it's flattery. I worked for someone who is a clinical psychopath. I mean, a psychopath. And he liked me, and I got to the top of the food chain at that company because I always sort of made him feel like maybe there was a chance if we were out to drink, so I drank enough, I'd fuck him. Literally would never happen. He looked like Donald Trump. Never happened in a million years. But he didn't know that. And a psychopath wants to believe their own hype. All men do. They are raised to believe only the good things society tells them, right? Women are raised to believe only the bad. Look at how we approach our bodies, our bodily functions. Men jizz on our face. Oh, there you go. And we're supposed to be like, ha, like it's so fun. Like here, wow, take my bodily fluids. Aren't they fantastic? We get our periods, which are the things that enable them to have sex with us. And we're like, I'm so sorry. It's like we're just dripping in shame. If they have to like see the tampon or, oh, I can't have sex and we have to put a towel down. We are taught to hate. They are taught to love. So if you feed into that, it's like, you know what? You are just like so powerful and commanding and wise. They'll be like, I know, right? Because maybe that's their shadow self. It's not correct, but maybe that's what they think about themselves deep down. They're a titan of industry. And here comes you validating that. And they're like, man, this girl gets it. Look at Trump's White House. He doesn't have smart people there. He has suck-ups there. Betsy DeVos, that trick bitch, I'd punch her in her brittle little face if I could. I would. This is evil weak. This is evil. But that's who he surrounds himself with because he's weak. And weak people are easily manipulated. You know, he's a beta male. He's a pack divider. He's not a pack builder. He's not a smart man. So he's going to keep people around who feeds into his ego. And we can learn from that, right? But what if your boss is a woman? Now, I wouldn't advise you flirting with your female boss if she's straight, even if she's a lesbian. Lesbians aren't super like flirty, you know? Like they get their business done. I like that. But you know what? Actually, before we talk about this, what do we do if it's a gay boss? This is a good question that I just came up with. So if your boss is gay, flattery still. Gay men love flattery. They're like ponies, you know? Like you just know everything, blah, blah, blah. So stick with the flattery, not the flirting. But what if it's a woman, right? So when I first moved to New York City and I got my very first like job in the publishing industry, I was a waitress and I got this unpaid internship with Self Magazine. And I will never forget the feeling. I'll like cry thinking about it. I walked out of the interview and I walked through like those big revolving doors at the Condé Nast building. The Anna Wintour would go in and out. Every single celebrity they'd shoot for Vogue and Vanity Fair. And I was like, I did like the Mary Tyler Moore twirl. I was like, I'm gonna make it. I was like, this is one of the greatest days of my life. Do you know why? Because I was on the path and I knew it. And I knew this was the foot in the door that I needed. And from there, I had what it took to execute all of my dreams. And I did. And so I went into that internship. I was older. I was like 24. Everyone else was like 22. But I was the first one in. I was the last one out. I went around to every single editor. What can I do to make your day better? And they're like, aren't you an intern? I was like, yep. What can I do? Do you want me to rack clothes? Do you want me to take Polaroids? Do you want me to send samples back? Do you want me to get you coffee? Do you want me to organize your purse? Do you want me to like send an email you don't feel like sending? And they're like, thank you. And I was competent at it. I knew how much workload I could handle, right? So I didn't like take on 10 projects and be like, I don't know, I can't do it. And I ingratiated myself, especially with this one editor, Rachel. She was the accessories editor. And I didn't realize that like everyone hated her. Like, I just didn't know that. I liked her a lot. But she knew everyone in the industry, you know? And it's weird how like the titans are either the really, really good people or the really, really bad people. And I thought she was great, but whatever. But she took a particular liking to me because I was the only one there who was like, what can I do to make your day better? What do you need? I'm here for you. I am at your disposal. Tell me what you want. And she was used to being the bitch, and people weren't nice to her. And like, I shouldn't say that she was like, oh, the really bad people, the really good people, because she wasn't bad. People just didn't like her. You know how girls can be. And maybe she was a nightmare. I have no idea. But I honed in on that shadow self, right? That no one's nice to you. I will be nice to you, and I will be helpful to you, and I will flatter you. I would say things like, how do you know all this? You know so much. Like, Rachel, you don't even know how much you know. You're an expert. You're in like the top 0.01% of knowledge in this field. And she's like, really? Like, she was so used to being like, rah, like arms at the ready for a fight, knives out. And so when I was able to sort of soothe her, I was on the inner circle, right? And because of her, I got my next 2 jobs in publishing. I put her as a reference, and I mean, it fast-tracked me to the top of the pile because everyone knew her, you know? So approach it from that angle of what can I do to make your life better, and flattery. But what about with your coworkers? Because while you want to make your boss's job easier, you don't want to make your life harder. So here's what you can do to be a little bit evil. You're like, boss, what project can I take on? What project can I take on? They're like, okay, prepare reports in the last 6 months. You're like, great. Now, what kind of asshole is going to go home and do that on their off time? Not you. This is evil week. You need to find out a way to manipulate your underlings or your coworkers and your peers into doing that work for you, and then you take the credit, right? So you do that by preying on their weaknesses. And you have to start with the weak people, because then the powerful people will fall in line. They will capitulate to the will of the mob. So let's say they task me with writing a big package for the magazine at work, like a big 12-page thing. I don't want to do all that work by myself. I could, but I don't want to. So I'm going to go to the photo editor, who's a really nice older lady, and I'll be like, oh, Joan, can you do this thing? Beep, 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 beep. Maybe offer to pay him a little bit under the table. Or you make it sound like it's not a request. You're like, hey, so this order came from on high. We need to do this whole extra package. I know, don't worry. I'll run interference with the managing editor. You don't even have to worry about it. Make it seem like you're doing them a favor. You don't even have to talk to the boss. I'll do it. You don't want them talking to the boss because you don't want them finding out that this is all you that should be doing this, right? You want to keep the information above and below. You want to keep them on a need-to-know basis. And as long as they're working for you, they don't need to know why. Because then, like I said, you recruit these other people who are of weak character and do feel like they're married to their job and, well, I can't say no, nobody's going to like me. Great. Prey upon that. I'm sorry that that's who they are, and I'm sorry they haven't watched Evil Week. I don't know what to tell you. We can't save everybody. So then you get them in line, and then you go to the people who are going to be harder to convince and be like, look, I know this sucks, but this is the project. Deb, Joan, Kathy, they're all working on it. We all just got to suck it up and do it. Don't worry. I'm liaising with the boss. I'll take care of all that bullshit. Even if it's not bullshit, and even if it's not hard, you make it sound like it is, because that entrenches your valuability. Value? Wow, it's been a long day. And they're going to be manipulated into seeing you as useful and making their lives better, when in actuality, you're making their life worse and harder, right? So when it comes to the higher ups, it's flattery. When it comes to the peers or the lower downs, you have to put a buffer between what the boss is saying and what you're telling them. And you have to do everything you can to get them to do your work for you, whether that is also flattery, intimidation, what have you. You have to assess on your own. But start to categorize people in terms of weak and strong. And weakness at work is defined by too much dependence on it, right? The strong people at work are the ones who don't care about negotiating their salary. They go in there like a savage because they're rich. Like their dad pays the rent. They're like, well, I'm not working for less than 180. I'm just not. Then I don't need the job. That's a position of power. The weak ones are the mom with 3 kids and she's single and she's like, I'll take whatever it is you can give me. Please just hire me. That's weakness and you can prey upon that, So look around your surroundings and say, who is weak, who is strong? What is everyone's shadow self? What weakness can I hone in on and press? And last but not least, do not let anyone take credit for your ideas. If you have to be the asshole in the meeting and be like, oh, I'm sorry, Ryan, that was my idea. Do you remember it was my idea because we talked about it on Tuesday? And you let that shit lay. You let it lay. You don't shuck and jive and come up with things to fill the signs but it's okay. We all worked really hard. No, you need to establish yourself as someone scary. Someone scary. Because most people are pussies. They're not going to stand up to somebody if they're afraid. They're especially not going to do it in a work environment that might put them on the chopping block or have attention that they don't necessarily want from the higher ups. People fall in line at work. And you can use that to your advantage, right? I hope you guys are enjoying Evil Week. We'll be back with more videos talking about more deadly sins and more ways to be bad, but make it look good. And like I said, shop my new merch collection and get help with a one-on-one session with me, all by going to my website, shallonlester.com, and follow me on Instagram at shallonxo. See you later. Stay savage.